welcome back to Cray Outdoors. This is my first video I'm recording here in the new apartment, so that's exciting. Today we're just going to talk about our salmon fishing trip up into the North Towns. Benji and I both had an errand to run in Buffalo one Saturday morning, so we decided to stay the night out there and do some fishing for early run salmon. This was a couple weeks ago. By the time you watch this video, the salmon are probably going to be in the rivers and such. But this was at the very, very beginning of the run. We were hoping to get on an early salmon. Benji and I are both completely out of eggs. So our main goal was to get on a salmon and get an egg supply to start off the season. However, to start off, it was the middle of the day on like an 80-degree day by the time we got done with our errands that Saturday. So we decided to head to the Alabama swamps and try for some pike and largemouth. I hadn't been fishing at that spot since I was a kid, and I hooked up with a nice bass right off the bat. I have no clue how I'm going to pull it through these weeds. Of course, bit on the spinning rod. Should have brought two bait casters. It is a bass, actually. The weeds are so thick, the bass can't even get through it.
Dragging through the weeds.
Yeah. I'll get him in the net just Alrighty. It's not a bad one. It's kind of gross looking, but I'll take it. Alrighty, the trip begins. See ya, buddy. It's beautiful here, but we're once again failing at catching fish. This seems to be a theme for Cray Outdoors this year. Every time someplace looks excellent, I catch nothing. But then a freaking ditch by the Buffalo Library and I'll pull out a steelhead. But any place that looks amazing like this, nothing. And we see fish jumping everywhere, but we can't catch them. So after that fish in the beginning, we thought it was going to be a good time there. But what can I say? Benji and I are failures. From there, we headed to the Piers to cast for salmon, met up with our buddy Ryan. Unfortunately, we didn't catch any salmon off of the pier either. I did, however, hook into this big sheephead, so that was interesting. Well, it's not a salmon, but I'm not skunked. The really frustrating part about the whole sheephead thing, too, just to give context, we were fishing all the way out on the end of the pier where Ryan thought that, you know, we had the best chance of catching a fish. He's a lot more familiar with the fishery than Benji and I. Basically, we had been casting the same spot on the pier for, I don't know, 4 hours or so. So we got bored and decided to try the other side of the pier. And the minute we left, this other person who was just kind of waiting for that spot to open up went over there, took our spot, casting the exact same spoons that we were, and hooked up with a big salmon. And that was one of the only salmon that I even saw caught. The salmon were few and far between out there, so that was just kind of frustrating for us. But congratulations to the guy who caught a big salmon. I know he was excited, and I've been that guy before where I've, you know, fished right where other people were fishing and then caught a big fish. It's always a good feeling. It's not such a good feeling to be on the other end of that like we were this time. But that sheephead hit right after that person caught their salmon. So we're like, oh, hey, the run's coming, you know, school's going by. I got super excited when I hooked into that fish and ended up just being that sheephead. So anyway, those were the piers. That was pretty lame. So the next morning we headed out to Devil's Hole. All right, well, Benji's got a bass on down there. Not skunked. Once again, not many fish around. We were about to give up when finally I felt a slam and hooked up with a big fish. Oh crap, I'm gonna have to freaking chase it, dude. It's He's went on quite the run. Oh, he's off. Dang. Holy cow. I'm all wet now. Oh, got it on film anyway. Whew. Sheesh. Whew. Well, I got my heart pounding. Jeez, again, it was just like the one that I hooked last time. That thing just, I couldn't stop it from zipping the line. Jeez. Slam the old crankbait. That's the first salmon I had on this year. I don't know when the camera kicked on, but he must have been going this way, and he hit right about there, right in that little foam whirlpool you see there. So he must have been going this way, and just hit it and went straight for that current. Because it was just screaming line from the second he hit it. He stopped at the very end there. I had to hold my rod tip low. I was just trying to stop him from running down past the power plant, running me out of line. And when I had him held down low, he tangled up in them rocks and got off the hook. Whew. Man, heart's pounding, but that was crazy. I wish I got the hit on film. I don't know how much of the line screaming I got on film. Drag's not loose. It's pretty tight, and I kept tightening it because I mean, I'd rather break my line than run out of line. Gotta at least try and stop him. It was nuts. So we ended up missing that fish and fished for another couple hours and not another bite. From what I saw, I was the only person to even hook up with a fish in that section of the river besides Benji's smallmouth there. So the fish were definitely just few and far between. From there, we headed to the Niagara Power Authority. It was very crowded and once again, not much going on. The whole time I was there, I only saw 2 hookups. One salmon that a guy caught right next to us, and then the outsiders were actually down there, and I watched them hook up with a big smallmouth. I ran into the outsiders down here. He's got a fish on. Apparently it's a smallmouth. That is really funny. Oh. I forgot I got a sheephead last night too. That was the other thing I forgot to mention. That's funny. That's funny. So they were really cool. Noah from the Outsiders actually gave me these really nice spinners that they assembled themselves. Really cool spinners. It was actually a spinner very similar to this one. Of course, it wasn't a custom-made spinner, but it was a chartreuse spinner, kind of like this. I think it was like a chartreuse vibrax that the guy caught the salmon on down there. And that was the only fish I saw landed in the Niagara River that Sunday. There's a bunch of guide boats out and whatnot, and I didn't see them hooking up with anything. So it was just a slow, rough day when even the guides aren't hooking up. But it was still good to get out and fish the mighty Niagara again, and of course it was cool meeting up with the Outsiders. Be sure to subscribe to their channel. They have awesome content, especially if you're from the north towns. They mainly fish that area. So after a rough 12 hours or so of casting for salmon and very little sleep, Benji and I were just depleted. We were ready to give up and throw in the towel, but we decided on the way home we would at least drive past the Steelhead tributaries, and if we saw like something was going on, we'd stop and try fishing it. The very first Lake Erie tributary that we drove over, we saw a big group of people fishing, middle of September. There wouldn't be a crowd of people if there wasn't fish, so we of course had to stop and give it a try. There was fish there, and Benji finally hooked up with a nice fish on the fly rod. Got on a decent one. It's about dang time. See, it's because we didn't bring the net. thing likes to jump. Should've, my fish gloves in the... Should be able to beach him here. It's a fresh one. Gotcha. What else is new? We came prepared for salmon, not steelhead, so this is the only fly rod that Benji had in his car. You got him. Nice. Yeah, that's a very fresh one. I fought so hard on the usual Benji fly. Yeah. I think it's a female. Are you keeping it? No. Okay. There it goes. I asked Benji what fly he caught the steelhead on. He's like, I don't even know. This thing, whatever it is. He doesn't even know what he has. Just weird flies that are given to him and that he gets out of the clearance department. And they work somehow. He always catches fish on something bizarre. Started raining and the water started rising on us. Benji's bag is completely soaked. Yeah. I think I'm saving mine just in the nick of time. Benji's, yeah, yours is soaked. So overall, it was a rough, tough weekend. Benji and I were just a little bit too early on trying to target those salmon from the Lower Niagara and the Lake Ontario shoreline. I think if we had waited one more weekend, we probably would have done a lot better, but we had to be in Buffalo that weekend anyway, and just had to pull the trigger and give it a try and get our early egg supply. Didn't happen, but oh well, we at least ended the trip on a high note with that big steelhead at the very end. And you can probably tell from the video, we weren't even really prepared at all for steelhead. Benji just happened to have his fly rod with him. Again, we don't have an egg supply, so I didn't really have anything. I was throwing salmon plugs at him. And so of course I didn't catch any, but Benji, of course, always catches one on the goofy fly. We are going to be fishing for salmon again next weekend. We are heading to Oswego and Pulaski. Benji and I both took a couple days off from work, and so I'm excited for that. Hopefully we'll finally get our egg supply, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next adventure.